Like everywhere else in pop culture, trends come and go with the world of video games. As developers and publishers alike experiment with different ideas in the hopes of innovation and giving us something new, we can see a shift in the games we play where the ideas that work stick around for quite a while. The more successful an idea is, the longer it's likelier to exist for. And likewise, terrible ideas like loot boxes, purchasable online passes, and ridiculously overpriced DLC have since been cast aside, even if it did take a lot of pushback from players. But sometimes though, what once seemed like a clever idea can quickly overstay its welcome if it becomes overused. After a while, the innovation loses its sheen and we're left with tired tropes that feel outdated and lazy. So let's take a look at them. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 modern video game tropes that everyone is rejecting. Number 10. The shift to tiny side quests. Side quests have become a common occurrence within video games for decades, extra pieces of content that give us more to do outside of progressing in the main story, which can be found everywhere in contemporary titles. However, developers have never been sure on the best ways to handle them. For years, a side quest consisted of completing tedious fetch quests or other meaningless pieces of busy work. They were a lazy means of padding out a game's length without adding anything of substance. And then The Witcher 3 and Assassin's Creed Origins came along and changed everything by transforming side quests into their own character-driven stories that tied everything into the overarching plot. In both of these games, side quests provided something new and interesting to experience. Hunting out these quests were now worthy of our time, but for some unknown reason, developers have taken 2 steps backwards by making side quests even smaller than ever. Whether it's mysteries in Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Cyberpunk's singular objective gigs, extra content has been diluted to bite-sized chunks of largely forgettable interactions that just don't add much to the overall experience. A return to the Witcher style of quests would actually be ideal. Number 9. Every game having its own eagle vision. One of the most unique aspects of the Assassin's Creed series was the inclusion of what is now called eagle vision. When activated, it highlighted enemies and targets, giving us a means to plan our next move and feel more like a skilled assassin. Around the same time, Arkham Asylum included a detective vision which, alongside enabling the Cape Crusader to examine vital clues, allowed us to locate enemies in the area. Ever since then, having a version of these modes has become a common trope within modern video games. Corvo had his dark vision in Dishonored, Big G has his Witcher senses, and V could use their Kiroshi optics implant to scan the environment. And that's just a tiny selection of examples. And within these examples, there's an in-game reason why the character can see through walls, whether it be supernatural or technological. However, this trope has become so prolific that there doesn't need to be any rhyme or reason as to why some characters just have this superhuman power. The most egregious examples are Agent 47's Hitman vision or Joel's listen ability in The Last of Us. There becomes a point in which just pushing a button to show all the enemies kind of removes most of the challenge. Number 8. Bullet sponge bosses. It's a trope that's been around for as long as games have, and yet bullet sponge boss fights have yet to be left in the past. Designed to be harder and more challenging than any of the grunts and basic enemies you've been fighting, bosses are supposed to be tough and will need more than a few hits to take them out. They just wouldn't be much of a challenge if all it took to beat them was one well-placed headshot. I'm looking at you, Mephisto. Go too far in the other direction though and give said boss too much health and you get a different kind of problem. Now the fight has become a prolonged slog comprised of chipping away at a hyperbolic health bar. While adding multiple stages to longer boss fights can add some variety to the mix, I mean look no further than Dark Souls to see how that's done. Plenty of games take the path of least resistance by sticking an uninspired showdown in an unforgettable arena and pumping the health pools up to 1 billion. Number 7. Forced stealth sections. Variety in level design is a straightforward way to stop gameplay from becoming tedious. Nobody likes doing the same kind of objective repetitively for several hours at a time. It keeps the action fresh and exciting while offering the potential for imaginative and interesting challenges. Look no further than Psychonauts 2 or Nier Automata, potatoes, constantly shifting gameplay to see how invigorating it can be. But for some developers, gameplay variety is as unimaginative as adding in some stealth sections to stretch out a game. Games with a specific focus on stealth can give rise to some rewarding challenges where skill, patience, and creativity pay off in satisfying ways. Even better is when detection isn't automatically a game over, with the likes of Deathloop, Hitman, and A Plague Tale Requiem showing how it's done. But to some developers, stealth is little more than adding a crouch button, some cover, and an instant failure when spotted. There's nothing fun about forcing players into unneeded sneak sessions, especially if they're entirely unnecessary. Titles like Observer, Call of Cthulhu, and even 2018 Spider-Man fell prey to this trope, which was consequently met by unanimous groans. Please, developers, no more unneeded stealth sections. Number 6. Battle Royales everywhere. Thanks to the mammoth success of the likes of Fortnite and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds in the late 2010s, the Battle Royale format has since become part of what seems like every other game that's released. Since then, Call of Duty Warzone, Rocket League, Forza Horizon 5, and Tetris 99 have joined the fray by adding in their own versions of this game mode. Even Halo Infinite looks to be getting one of its own, with rumors as recent as September 2022 all but confirming the news. And when done right, Battle Royales can provide nail-biting tension as player numbers dwindle and victory edges even closer. And it's this reason which made the genre as immensely popular as it was in the first place. But just because a game can have one doesn't mean that it should. With so many iterations of Battle Royales from every possible angle, the news of another one being introduced generates more eye rolls than excitement for what has become another developer jumping on the bandwagon that left a long time ago. But the most annoying thing about the glut of Battle Royales that we've got at the moment is that the sheer number of them detract attention from the ones that are genuinely excellent and unique, such as the one that's in Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. Seriously, go check it out. Number 5. Season passes and in-game stores. Just when we thought we'd got rid of the predatory invasiveness of microtransactions and loot boxes, greedy executives found another means of wringing as much money out of our pockets as possible. And this is, of course, season passes once more. Sometimes called battle passes, these are purchasable passes that give players access to extra content for the duration of a set season. With the rise of free-to-play games and the live service gaming model, the battle pass option sounds like a reasonable means for a project to earn money over a longer period in order to support development whilst also giving players shiny cosmetics without the need for any nefarious loot boxes. However, problems begin to appear when you notice how expensive these items can be, especially when players have already purchased the game in question. Asking them to shell out around $10 to $20 to get those premium items, well, it definitely adds up. Even worse is the gigantic cost of cosmetics in in-game stores, with it reportedly costing over $1,000 to purchase everything in Halo Infinite's first season. While games like Sea of Thieves have included versions of battle passes that are far less intrusive and cost-effective, this tactic is becoming increasingly exploitative. Number 4. Game worlds always getting bigger. Whenever a new game is announced, especially if it's a new entry in a series, the chances are that at some point someone is going to have to boast about how unimaginably massive the map is. It's only recently that Bethesda have revealed that the upcoming sci-fi RPG Starfield will have 1,000 planets for us to explore. Now, while the prospect of exploring a digital universe of this size suggests hundreds of hours of storytelling potential, bigger does not necessarily mean better. That is a lesson that we've learned on several occasions. The promise of a sprawling map is a promise for epic adventures set within a variety of different areas to explore and discover. And this was the case when it came to Skyrim and The Witcher 3, with each new undiscovered location containing something worth seeking out. However, a game's world is only as good as the content that's in it, and as maps get increasingly bigger, it becomes harder to fill them with meaningful encounters. The sprawling streets of Cyberpunk's Night City make for a wonderfully realized dystopian setting. However, its vast empty areas and over-reliance on side contents to fill that map detracts from the overall experience of an otherwise excellent game. Number 3. 4-player co-op games. While there are countless and excellent games that are designed to be single-player experiences, there are likewise plenty of other excellent ones out there which are best enjoyed with friends. Whether it's enjoying some couch co-op, setting out on a quest with a group, or getting everyone together for an evening of party games, company is always welcome, right? But what we don't need more of, though, is more 4-player co-op games, especially within the horror genre. Titles like Left 4 Dead and its sequels showed how exhilarating the 4-player format could be for a horror experience. And with more recent examples, like Phasmophobia's cooperative ghost hunting gameplay, it proves how well it can work when done right. However, this formula has since become the go-to template for developers to jump onto the latest trend. In just the last few years, we've seen the likes of Devour, Back 4 Blood, GTFO, Pacify, Ghost Watchers, Lunch Lady, Forewarned, Sign of Silence, and Labyrinthine, to name just a few. And that's not mentioning the plethora of asymmetrical horror titles out there either. Though there's nothing specifically wrong with this format, the burnout has definitely started to set in. Number 2. Characters acting differently in cutscenes and ludonarrative dissonance. Now, ludonarrative dissonance is very much an academic term, but this trope is becoming increasingly more noticeable the more that we've become made aware of it. In short, this trope is when the actions a protagonist makes during gameplay do not match with how they're portrayed during cutscenes. One of the most blatant examples of this appears in the Tomb Raider reboot, in which Lara is shown to be deeply troubled with killing to survive within cutscenes, but effortlessly massacres dozens of enemies during the game. Another and equally irksome example of this is when our overpowered and very competent hero becomes uncharacteristically foolish when it's time to move the plot forward and suffers a defeat or horrible injury that just wouldn't have occurred had we still been in control. Despite Ethan Winters of Resident Evil Village fending off hordes of infected alongside defeating powerful bosses, he nevertheless has a terrible habit of letting his guard down whenever there's a cutscene, and it's these blunders which result in him getting in even worse situations. Games like The Last of Us Part 2 and Red Dead Redemption 2 have shown us that it's possible for gameplay to feed into the narrative experience, so a future without this trope definitely is possible, but it doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. And number 1, quirky dialogue. Due for release in January 2023, Forspoken is set to be an epic fantasy adventure from Square Enix. Phoenix, which sees our protagonist Frey transported to a sprawling world of magic and monsters, in which she must use her newfound abilities to get back home. With an expansive trailer highlighting an imaginative world, zippy traversal, and hinting at a grand story the developers are planning to tell, Forspoken looks like a pretty solid entry into the PS5 library. That is, however, if we forget about the Cuff, a sentient magical bracelet who looks to be Frey's comedic sidekick. While it's unclear what the role this talking accessory will play in the wider scope of the plot, his sardonic dialogue feels tonally out of place in the trailer. Smacking of a postmodern comedy style that peaked with Portal 2's Wheatley, Forspoken's comedy has come 10 years too late. As we saw with the bemused reception that met the Saints Row reboot, the era of quirky comedy has long since passed its best before date. While it is possible that Cuff could surprise us all, his brief appearance in the trailer does not bode well. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 modern video game tropes that everyone is rejecting. I hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, or you can swing by Instagram where it's the same handle, and I hope to see you over there. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. I hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all the best things in life, alright? I know that these ending words of positivity may sound like a trope of my videos, but trust me, it is one that I am more than happy to keep going, because you deserve to feel the best about yourself every bloody day, alright? And I want you to go out there and smash your life goals today. I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.